Shalom, today is March 3rd and we're in the 149th day of the war between Israel and Hamas. We're watching together channel 12. I'll help you with the Hebrew. The anchor begins about the mashber, the crisis in the hostage deal. As we're approaching Ramadan, we haven't gotten a sufficient response from Hamas, and it seems like the deal is further away than we thought. The assumption this evening in Israel is that Hamas may try to take advantage of the holiday, of the Ramadan holiday, against Israel to stir up things in Judea and Samaria, rather to bring peace in Gaza. But first, today, officially announced, is the death of Denis Yakimov, 33 years old, from Beersheba. He died in the south of the Gaza Strip. May his memory be blessed. The political reporter Yaron Avraham says that Qatar has spoken to the Rosh of the Mossad in Israel and said that Hamas has finally responded to the deal, but it's basically an empty response, and it hasn't given a substantial response to 2 points of the agreement, which is how many hostages will be, how many prisoners will be released for hostages, and how many hostages are alive, those who will be released, around 40. How much of those are actually alive? So it's not a substantial response. It's not enough to continue. And here's one source in Israel says, in the government of Israel says, without these 2 parameters, we cannot continue with the deal. And Sinwar, the head of Hamas in Gaza, took a decision that in Ramadan he wants chaos rather than peace. But with this, some people in the war cabinet say that the list that we're supposed to receive from Hamas about the hostages, dead or alive, that is not a condition, a precondition for a deal, as it wasn't a condition in the other hostage exchange deals. We got the list just hours before the hostages were released. But we can say that Qatar and Egypt, the 2 mediators, were pressuring Hamas to give a number of how many terrorists will be released for every hostage, but Hamas denied, they declined that request. They're not answering that. So Israel cannot continue with the deal. And here the General Israel Ziv, he's the former head of special operations, he says he doesn't really understand why Sinwar is declining this kind of deal. 40 hostages is a large number, but it still leaves him with more hostages. And secondly, he's in a position of really losing control over Hamas in Gaza, as we saw last week with the incident of the humanitarian aid trucks running over 100 Palestinians and injuring so many more. So Israel is saying that he's afraid that actually the deal, the Hamas that's speaking to Qatar and Egypt are not the relevant Hamas. Hamas International, who is speaking to Qatar and Egypt, is not Hamas Gaza, and Hamas Gaza is out of control. They're out of touch, and those are the ones that really need to be involved. So this is this general's opinion. He really doesn't understand how this deal is not going forward. It should be a good deal for Sinwar. Next, the war in Gaza is still continuing, and here's a summary of what the last days look like in the Gaza Strip. Israel מאפשרת סיוע humanitarian. Israel is allowing humanitarian aid from the air and from the ground. In the center of Khan Yunis, with tall buildings where Hamas seniors are hiding, the IDF started bombing from the air during the night, airstrikes to take down those seniors of Hamas. These are places actually that the IDF has not yet operated in. And here in a new neighborhood, relatively new, that hasn't been touched yet by the IDF, also here the IDF has been starting to operate. This is the IDF through a drone with large speakers calling the residents, do not leave your place, do not go to the war zones, to the streets where the war is happening, just stay in place as much as you can in this case. And here we see, in the northern part of the strip, we see where airdropped food packages from the Jordanian military, from the US military, so it's international aid to bring food to really prevent starvation and hunger. Here's a Palestinian that's receiving a package. See sugar, Tabasco, Skittles. We know from what military that came from. Hamas continues to surprise face-to-face battles, and the IDF soldiers are using this time, as Israel has not yet entered Rafah in an official way, they're using it to continue fighting the terrorists that are in places that they've been working on already, like in Khan Yunis. So it reads, Tzahal magbir et halachatz hatzvai. The IDF is increasing their military pressure in Khan Yunis, and at the same time, this pressure is supposed to work towards the hostage deal. This reporter says, in his opinion, the military pressure needs to just increase even more. And there are continued discussions and actions to help the citizens there with humanitarian aid in a heavy way. But the entrance of humanitarian aid seems more important sometimes to U.S. rather than Sinwar. Sinwar puts the humanitarian aid number 3. First priority for Sinwar is ceasefire. Second is his prisoners that are in Israel, the terrorists. And only the third priority is humanitarian aid. And here we see the defense minister, Yoav Gallant, saying to the higher-up soldiers, we will not stop this battle until we demolish Hamas as an organization that attacks Israel. There will be a terrorist here and there, but not as an organization that comes against Israel as a whole, as a group. Tzahal magbir et halachatz hatzvai. Again, the IDF increases its pressure, its military pressure in Khan Yunis, and they're speaking about how the U.S. military the U.S. government is continuing to pressure Israel to give more humanitarian aid, to allow more humanitarian aid to come in. This is in following to what happened last week with the disaster of 100 Palestinians dying, starving for food, pushing each other heavily to get to the humanitarian aid trucks. So there's a Hebrew word called balagan, meaning a big mess. So this is a big mess. Who is governing the Gaza Strip? It was Hamas. Hamas is losing its control because the war. Hamas would like the control back, but here we see Egypt and Qatar and Jordan and US, they're all involved. There is a big balagan in the Gaza Strip regarding the civilians. The next story is about the Ir Sderot. Today, for the first time in the Ir Sderot, which is a Jewish major town near the Gaza Strip, schools open today, and preschools open today for the first time since October 7th. So it's almost 5 months. So they officially opened 120 schools have opened in Sderot. He's asking the mother, are you happy to come back? She says, of course, barur, it's our home, it's our home. I'm not changing my home with anything in the world. And the child, Eli, says, it's happy to go back to your home. I missed my friends. So over 5,000 students went back to their classes today, but this is only half of the students in Sderot. Security forces were there to give them a sense of security, and the good news is that there were no rockets, no sirens. Inbal says she was so excited she did not sleep almost all the night. Ninet also says, I missed school, I missed my teachers, and I was afraid throughout all of the war. But some of the parents and students are still concerned. He says to come here this morning was nerve-wracking because there were bombs and sirens yesterday. And Elraz, one of the fathers, says we do not feel safe. We feel like we were forgotten. They're speaking about just the attack of October 7th that was so severe and took so long to come back to the city, and there are still sirens as of yesterday. But the city of Sderot believes that slowly, the whole city will get back into life, and that the thousands of students will be able to go back to their routine and to their education. For more updates and stories, go to All Israel News. Follow us on our social media. Like this video if you liked it. Thank you for watching. This is Rotem Magen for All Israel News.